You're listening to the Pitch Stack Podcast.
All right, welcome to the Pitch Stack Podcast, episode 25. I'm Doug, and I'm joined by Matt. We're getting ready for national season. Matt, how are you doing this week?
Good. Quarter of the way to 100. How do you feel?
I feel pretty good. I don't know. It's really interesting to me to sit down and like realize that other nationals are happening. Like for me, I don't know, Americentric worldview, whatever. But for me, nationals are like September 25th, and it's like, oh, Vietnam is over, and you're like, wait, what's going on?
I mean, if it makes you feel any better, our nationals are worth more points because they know our players are better.
I don't know if we're better, but we're definitely sweatier.
Huh? Oh, sweatier. Yeah. I mean, isn't that what it was? Isn't that the same thing?
When it comes to gaming, America is hands down the sweatiest nation on earth. Like, it's not even close. I mean, there's nowhere near another country that's.
I guess it would depend on the game or the genre, you know?
Yeah, that's true. I'm really struggling to find a really sweaty gamer that's not American.
I mean, all American gamers for the most part are very sweaty.
That's true. And that's why we have the strongest deodorant.
Yeah, and we have the least usage.
That's true. Yeah, look at all the that's a friendly reminder to pick up a nice stick of Mitchum before you head to your local nationals. And I say this as a native Floridian, the only deodorant that can last through the swampy Florida summer is Mitchum. I don't know.
What's Mitchum? I've never heard of it.
Really? It's the way you get through Florida summers. I assume Louisiana too. They probably have a swamp issue. Mitchum is just this deodorant that like it just is basically all it is silver nitrate, which is like the shit that prevents you from sweating and smelling. And then like people are like, I don't want that in my deodorant. It's going to make me sick. And it's like, yeah, you'll be very unwell, but you'll smell great. And
fair.
I don't know. It's like, I think one of my favorite things is like when you ever see stuff, it's like made with like natural ingredients, or it'll be like 99% natural. Mitchum is just like 96% natural, which is really funny to me. Like
I'm more of just like a gel deodorant kind of guy. I don't really like
Mitchum is a gel. But it does great. It works well. I don't know. It's
effective. It's effective.
That's what it is. Their new active ingredient. I'm gonna pronounce it like I'm British because that's funnier. Aluminium sesquichlorohydrate. That is what is keeping you from getting bounced from your LGS.
Well, I think it's fine when you're like, oh, I need to make my trip to the LGS. Time to put on that extra strong deodorant. You know, I want to be at a swampy, sweaty grind fest all day. I may as well put on the good shit.
Just smells like a Smash tournament. Do you remember though in like 2016 where there was like that movement in the trading card game community for everybody to like oh, just get it together, everyone, and like LGSs were putting up signs where it's like, you may be asked to leave based on your hygiene.
I mean, I don't know if that. I hope that never stopped. I mean, I know the signs aren't like everywhere, but like honestly, people need to get their shit together. I get it. Like, I get that there are. This is a whole nother conversation. We're going into a tangent here, but fellas and ladies, please do your best to show up to the game store the way you'd show up to to work. Maybe that's not a great example. The way you show up to a date,
Yeah, I think if you're
not dressed for a date, how would you like to be hygienic for a date? Show up that way because everyone would appreciate it.
Yeah, it's okay to stink at the card game, but it's not okay to stink during the card game.
Correct.
I think that's 100% what needs to be said.
That is our plug for right guard.
It's like all new right guard TCG. I don't know.
The cards smell like Irish Spring.
Yeah, exactly. Hand out deodorant tokens. Phenomenal. All right,
peel and stick tokens.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I think that's the thing. Like, you know,
like in the back of the pack, you just peel off a little plastic thing and just start wiping it on your outfits because it's got like a little deodorant sample.
Yeah, like you've gotten a deodorant sample before, right? Like, I mean, they're very uncommon these days. Like deodorant samples, they show up on occasion.
Where do you get a deodorant sample?
They're the equivalent of like, do you ever open up like a first aid kit and then like whatever the hell their version of Neosporin is or whatever, and you just like, it's like in that tiny little thing. Like they do that with deodorant samples. They're not as common as they used to be. Like now they just use like that super like comically tiny speed stick or whatever.
I know about the travel size. I know that.
Yeah, there used to be like gel packets, and you could put those in boosters.
That's funny.
That's all I'm saying.
You could, yeah.
Oh, phenomenal. Well, I'm sure, speaking of sweaty, before we get to the Nationals, and LSS is tweaking the Living Legend system is one of the biggest pieces of news this week.
I kind of misinterpreted the first time somebody mentioned this to me.
I think we all did because it's really complicated.
It made it sound like they increased the cap to 3,000, and then my mind immediately was like, wait a minute, are they just unleashing Starvo like a month before Natt? I'm like, please God, no. But no, that is absolutely incorrect.
Yeah, it's really interesting, right? I think they're what is this thing that they said they're trying to do? Is 4 in, 3 out? I mean, they're just kind of like talking about this year so far as we've had 4 in, 3 out.
That's
and
been
in the article
pace is what they're saying, is that has been the pace for the year. Our first year of Living Legend accomplishments also followed 4 new, actually technically 5 new, 4 new CC heroes so far. And I think they're expecting Breyer to get nailed at some point based on the way they phrase this. So it will essentially be 4 in, 4 out. But then they're also really vague about this, where they're basically saying they might tweak the amount of adult heroes that show up each year. And I don't know. It is weird. They also, the way they say so far this year, it's like they start counting their year in June, you know? Which is bizarre. I don't know that much about New Zealand, but I'm pretty sure that's not right. So, I mean, it's
maybe
the New Zealand New Year calendar, of course.
Maybe that's the thing, is like the big set each year is when they consider it like the new year.
It might just be the LSS calendar.
Yeah. It is interesting to me, though, that they're expecting 4 to go out each year. That, to me, says 1 year from now, we will have a relatively, I use the word healthy very loosely, Living Legend format, which I will think will be super fun.
Question.
Yeah.
What do you think they're going to be the first 8 heroes to Living Legend?
The first 8 heroes to Living Legends?
Also, of course, we can't predict any heroes that are coming up in Dynasty. And I also have a point about that, but any heroes coming out next year.
So basically your question is, of the existing heroes, do you think who will be the next 5, essentially? Correct. So I think Breyer is a done deal. I think Breyer will be LL. I think it's weird because they seem like afraid of printing more Runeblade cards, and I feel like if they were a little bit more inclined to print Runeblade cards, then for sure Viserai, we could definitely wrap up in that. I think Oldham for sure. Oldham is so dominant in the meta right now. So let's see. Breyer, Viserai, Oldham. I need 2 more.
Fi, I think, personally.
That's interesting, right? Is like, I think Fi is a very good deck. Just the meta right now is like very... Fi needed there to be more mid-range and aggro decks to try and prey on Prism, and since they all disappeared, Fi is like, he is getting absolutely crushed. And we'll get to it later, but like one of the weird symptoms of that is like every ninja card has just tanked. That's how bad Fi is getting crushed. People are in sell mode. But yeah, it's interesting, right? I think in a weird way we can kind of look at Blitz success, and that's why I think Viserai, Oldham, Briar. I think Fi is a good answer because we are getting more draconic cards. I don't think Bravo Showstopper is a dominant yet enough force. So maybe I just say Dash, just because Dash already has a ton of points and seems to still be putting up results and functioning consistently.
That's fair. Yeah, I don't think you're wrong.
Yeah.
But what exactly changed? Because I'm not totally sure. Like I don't know if I understood exactly what the objective was of changing this system. Like what did they actually accomplish changing the living legend points, like the distribution?
Yeah, so that's another thing that I wanted to talk about in this article, right? And I mean, don't get me wrong, I like read at a 4th grade level, but the thing that's very interesting about this is, to me, when I'm looking through this Living Legend update, they're like, yeah, we introduced 4 new heroes, and then 4 of them got rotated out, so everything's working as intended, and that's why we changed everything. Like, what? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I get the increase, like, because LL points are directly proportional to competitive gameplay time, right? Like, LL points are representative of competitive gameplay time, because LSS can control how these points are distributed. They're essentially printing LL points every time they grant a place a pro quest, like a place to hold a road to nationals, to hold a nationals, to hold a battle hardened, to hold a calling. They are essentially distributing LL points. And so to me, it is interesting that my guess is they just have data on the amount of people playing competitively in ProQuest and stuff. And that's why they were like, hey, listen, we need to cut ProQuest LLs in half, or else we're just going to start to see, in 2 months, maybe one card's dominant in a meta, or one hero's dominant in just 2 months of a meta, and then they're gone. So
yeah, it's
interesting. Let's see. I think they said they want about 1,000 points per product season.
Yeah, exactly.
And then 1,500 for Blitz, which I think 1,500 is great for Blitz. Just there's so many more Blitz heroes. Maybe they're starting to realize that Blitz is a little bloated, and it kind of Blitz needs the LL system, because I feel like Blitz is one of those metas that gets concentrated towards the top very quickly. And so I don't know. It's interesting because they didn't make any real Blitz changes. They just kind of are like, there's enough to LL 3 heroes each year now, which I guess is the same for CC. So I don't know. It's weird. They
and did you notice that World Championship points were never, until they announced the format, it was never divided. It was always just 300 points per the World Championship. But now that it's announced CC and Blitz, your heroes that you succeed with in Blitz and CC will each respectively gain 100 and 200 points of the 300.
Well, so this is interesting too, right? Like, I mean, obviously people are going to metagame for stuff, but like, presumably, the winner of the World Championship will also have won a national champ. So like, we're looking at 400. I mean, that said,
True.
Oh, that is interesting. I didn't even realize that like Canada's national championships worth 20, but the US is worth 100. That seems a little weird to me.
Yeah, I thought it was more like I don't know. I mean, Canada technically is smaller, but
it is. But I mean, is our champ? I mean, is it?
And
really
I don't necessarily think that a nationals winner will have to be the World Championship, because you can qualify for the World Championship with just a PTI, and you never even have to have participated in the nationals. You can have won that true. PTI on a road to nationals.
But if you're not first, you're last, right?
Right. I mean, it's more likely that an experienced professional player has a good chance to win the World Championship. It's
you're 100% guaranteed.
But like some no one with like very little like official reps, but with like a ton of practice, can win a PTI at their local event and then just run it all the way up to World Championship.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're correct. Yeah, I think.
Like I said, it's unlikely, but definitely not out of the equation.
So that's interesting to me. So with that said, right? So they made some changes to the LL, and I think we kind of like guessed a little bit, or at least I did, at the players that I think are going to LL the quickest of what's going on soon. So I don't know. You saw that article this week, right? With the Nationals snapshot that they published.
Yeah, I took a quick skim at it, and most notably, at least, because I'm not super familiar with a lot of names, especially not with like a lot of the Eastern Hemisphere players, but I do know who Nick Butcher is.
Yeah,
and he won the Australia Nats. He actually played against. He had the privilege of playing against our very own champion Jonathan Owens in the Pro Tour, and he crushed him. But yeah, no, he won the Nats with Oldham.
Yeah. And I don't know if you saw the results for like the other tournaments, but my God, it's not entirely Oldham, but that is the deck right now.
Yeah,
it is.
It's scary. I mean, it's a lot. It really is a lot. It's
just grandfathers. Oldham. I mean, if you win one of these, terrible joke. Maybe you're getting grandfathered in. I'm not proud of it, but I started saying it. I had to finish it.
You did it.
So it's interesting, right? I think so. The decks that are showing up, we're seeing a lot of Oldham. We're seeing some Viserai. We're seeing some Briar. We're seeing a surprising amount of Dash. And then the thing that I was not expecting to see a lot of that is showing up in these lists is Dromai. That is weird to me.
I mean, Dromai straight up won a Nationals in
Norway.
It was Norway, yeah.
Yeah, the 23-person Norway Nationals got Dromai 10 LL points there. Yeah, that is weird.
Noting. Congrats, Adrian.
I think maybe the reason you play Dromai is Dromai does kind of punish Oldham. Because all of Oldham's on-hit effects specifically say hits a player. Mm-hmm. And then you're able to build a board state that becomes it's we've all been there. Illusionist versus Guardian. It's the same old story. So maybe that's why people play Dromai. You also have like a very good matchup against Viserai. You have a very good matchup against Icelander.
Dromai?
Yeah. Isn't that weird?
I don't agree. But hey, so look, I have lost to Dromai before. I'm not saying I haven't. But the thing is, it depends on the deck build. But for the most part, my experience has been I usually win.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I don't necessarily know if the builds I've been playing against were like outdated, outclassed, just not really like great. Maybe it's the pilots. Who knows?
Yeah, because I don't know if you've seen these new Dromai lists, but they are bizarrely aggressive. I have run played a lot against of
one.
Man.
I played against one recently, and I was testing a weird brew that like an aggro Vis deck, and I won. But it was interesting that they were able to pump out so many Ashwings. It had like 7 Ashwings at one point, but at that point I was kind of just like, whatever, 7 damage plus your Ravenous a turn. I mean, like 11, 14 damage maybe, and I'm still pumping out the same amount of damage, like, or more potentially. So I don't know. It was an interesting matchup, which I ended up winning, but I did play against a Dromai once where like they just kind of overwhelmed me with big dragons, the meaty ones, and it was kind of just like, well, I mean, definitely not going to just blame my own unluckiness and draws, but they played it well, and they just kind of had too much pressure, so they won that one.
Yeah. I don't know. I actually want to put this Dromai list together. It kind of looks really fun. A lot of like you're running Ravenous Rabble, Spears of Surreality, Break the Embers. Blaze Headlong is very spicy.
Yeah, I like it. I think the cool. Draconic vanillas are underplayed in Dromai, especially like the Tome.
Yeah, I think people were like, Dragon's cool for a while, and now they're starting to figure out, oh, okay, Dromai is just gonna punch, kick, punch, Dragon, which is cool. It's weird because Phantasm's not that big of a weakness in these lists.
Definitely cool. Not. And Doranthia has actually shown up quite a bit on these lists. I mean, in these lists of top 8s.
Yeah, I do think that's interesting. Why do you think that is?
The Iron Song, the new card from the battle decks.
Oh yeah,
what is it called?
Yes, it's called Battle Decks exclusive song.
Glistening Steel Blade. I remember.
Blade card due 30. Yeah, Glistening Steel Blade. I'm actually in the background. I just want to see. I want to see if it's worth any more money than it was. Yep, it continues to creep up. Jeez.
Yeah, because I mean, she's still a decent choice actually, and to certain like heroes and stuff. She kind of crushes it. But
there are 4 of them available for under $45.
Yikes, bro! What the heck? That's expensive.
Yeah, let's reprint that LSS.
More than likely, I can imagine.
Until I think it's going to be like it's going to be like that ninja card where it was only in the Katsu deck.
Oh,
I know, like Lunging Press. Is that what I'm thinking of? Is that the name of the card?
No, there was a couple actually. Springboard Somersault. Did you thinking of?
Yeah, I believe that is another.
That was in all of the hero decks, I think, from WTR. If I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure they all had some sort of Springboard Somersault to educate players on playing out of the arsenal. But we digress. Yeah, no, Dromai is looking pretty saucy right now. I do want to test some more Dromai. I still am pretty committed to Viserai until I learn my lesson the hard way. I just gotta keep playing it, and it's the hero I have the most reps with, so I'm gonna stick to it. I believe in reps over meta, so I think that'll be your best friend always.
Yeah, I mean, I agree too.
And I don't think Vis isn't even a bad choice. He's performing extremely well, making top 8s all over the place. So there's always a chance.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think even if you're like, if you have the most reps with like a less prolific hero like Lexi or even like Reiner, you have a strong chance of performing better than you would if you just decided to pick up a Guardian or Briar, a week before the event and think you're going to perform well, because you're just not as well as you would have if you just played your hero.
Yeah, I mean that's exactly what happened in Malaysia. As Reiner took it home.
Oh yeah, that was sick.
I think they had a pretty large tournament too, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't think Reiner's bad in this meta.
I don't either. I think he's kind of a nightmare to play against if you're a Guardian.
Absolutely. Like, dude, like, I think the thing that always comes down, when it comes down to it, like, Reiner suffers from, like, it depending on the deck build, he has cards that just don't block.
Yeah.
But
and the
also
dice lose you the game.
Right. And the dice sometimes, you're relying on, you can't rely on it, right? And a lot of newer players to the deck don't understand that.
Yeah.
Deck construction, of course, matters a lot too. And the deck has a capacity to kind of just like, oh yeah, I'll block like 9 damage and here's 4 every single turn.
Yeah.
Right? Until they get the Arsenal Blood Rush and the Tunic counter, take some damage, and then they're going to beat your face in.
Yeah, and they just bring that heat.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That is interesting. I think you're 100% correct. I've had that thought to myself where I think primarily that if Brute was the problem with Brute, right, as a class is there's just so much additional variance added to the way that it works that if they were able to do something to Brute to make it a little more consistent, then it would continually be in the top 8s of these nationals tournaments.
But I think that consistency will come with player experience and deck construction.
Yeah,
and
that's
I think
true.
you could see that in the deck lists when you look at them. The inclusion of like weird like left lane left fields picks like Cadaverous Contraband are like really interesting.
Yeah.
And you know what's funny? I know a guy locally who like I didn't give him shit for it. It was kind of just like, I don't know where this is going. It seems interesting, but I can't even attest to the power level of like playing something like Cadaverous Contraband. It seems good because it's a 6 power, right? And his idea is like, hey, you get to flash out a barraging beatdown after paying for Cadaverous if they let it hit. Oh no, you know what it was? It wasn't even that card. It's funny. I'm thinking about a different card. Cadaverous is interesting, but the card I'm thinking about is Rifting.
Oh yeah, so yeah,
Rifting
Cadaverous
is quite
fantastic.
Interesting.
I even have to look up Rifting because in my head it's just
it just lets you KO any non-attack action if it hits.
Ooh.
Yeah, it lets you Creepers a non-attack action essentially.
That's interesting.
And then Cadaverous just pulls a card out of the yard on top of your deck. That's a non-attack.
How many non-attack actions does this deck run?
Just barraging, Sand Sketch, and Blood Rush. That's literally it.
Interesting. Yeah,
Which
I
is
think
enough.
there's. Yeah, it's pretty.
High Roller, but you're not playing High Roller. That's like a pitch block for 3.
Yeah, that's true. That is interesting though, that it allows you to play it as an instant. Huh.
Yeah, Rifting's interesting. Cadaverous Contraband is not bad because it lets you reset your Blood Rush Bellows to have more than just 3 of them. You kind of just re-loop them. It's kind of crazy. And at worst, it's a 6 power you could discard.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I don't hate that at all. Yeah, this Reiner list is actually really fascinating. And in my quest to like, I really enjoy now that I have like purchased the vast majority of Legendaries, I can kind of just like look at a deck list and be like, oh yeah, I could sleeve that up. And I really enjoy that right now. Although really one of the reasons that I am enjoying that is, like you said, reps matters, and I'm having a very difficult time picking a hero in the post-Prism world.
Yeah, I understand.
So maybe I'll just retire until the Living Legend.
That's kind of how I felt about Blitz. And like, oh, Viscera is not legal? Whatever. I don't care about Blitz. What's that? What's Blitz? What's a Blitz?
What's a Blitz? It's the way you get people hooked on this game, so they spend $400 to $500.
You just hand somebody a Data Doll deck and they'll lose, but they'll have a lot of fun.
Yeah. Here you go. Have fun losing.
At least you'll have fun.
Yeah, absolutely. So Matt, other than reps, other than applying extra strength deodorant, you mentioned to me before that you have some tips on how to get ready for nationals, specifically the USA Nationals, because that's the only one that exists.
Well, yeah, of course. Just, I don't have a lot of experience going to a large number of these events. I have been to a few Magic GPs, and I have been to at least one Nationals call.
Yeah,
and of course other local larger tournaments, right? Like traveling a couple hours to a ProQuest or a Road to Nats, that kind of experience.
Yeah,
but a lot of people actually have never traveled or gone to a large tournament like the Nationals or Pro Tour or anything like that, right? Because there's still, of course, Pro Tour next year. There's Nats this year. There's Worlds at the end of this year, right? And a lot of people don't have that kind of experience going to a large convention center prepared to play trading card game for, upwards of like 10 hours, right? Or depending on how early you get there, how late you leave, right?
Absolutely.
And there's a lot of things you may not think about. So I think it's worth mentioning and helping people with a little kind of like Ned's Guide style advice piece in our podcast here on how to prepare yourself for the best, to be the best you can. So
absolutely,
one of my
I'm so old. I didn't get that Ned's Guide reference. I had to look it up.
Yeah, it's funny. That was kind of like a 06 like 04 era like Nick show, I believe, right?
Yeah, I was in college. So
actually, that was a little bit later than that. I think it was like 08, but either way, you know, and let me know if you have any other suggestions besides the ones I'm gonna kind of throw your way and see what you think. But so I would recommend at the almost near the top of the list a water bottle, a refillable water bottle, right? And
that makes sense.
Unless you just like spending $2 on soda every time you're thirsty, I would recommend bringing a refillable water bottle or having to run to the water fountain near the restroom every single time you want to drink. Do not recommend dehydration. Not fun. Bring some kind of aluminum water bottle. You can kind of refill, throw some ice in, and just drink throughout the day. Keep yourself somewhat hydrated, right? Because you do not want to be there in the middle of a game. Your mouth is all dry. You're desperate for water. It's not fun. I'm telling you right now.
Yeah.
What do you think?
No, I think that's 100% correct. I think, I don't know. It's really weird, but people people vastly underestimate like how easy it is to get dehydrated. And especially like, I mean, North Carolina is obviously a little bit cooler in September, but you're just like, it's one of those things where like, when you're playing trading cards for that long, you are going to forget to eat. You are going to forget to drink.
Right.
So yeah, definitely. That water
and that's another big point too. I have a handful of points about that. Make sure to bring cash, some kind of cash, right? I don't necessarily think this is the most important thing. It won't be the end of the world if you don't, but I think it'll be helpful to have options, because sometimes these places may not have a working cart swiper, or they only take cash. I don't know what kind of place would only take cash, but you never know. Like some bullshit might happen and they're like, oh, sorry, we're only taking cash today or something, right? And you don't want to be like, shit, I don't have enough time to go over to this other line and wait and order a pizza. I have 10 minutes before my round starts, or not even, right? So you don't want to be in that situation. Just bring both, your card and cash. And not like, I'm not saying bring like $1,000 in cash so somebody could just steal it from you and you get screwed.
No,
just bring
rolls of quarters.
Yeah, exactly. Just bring like $30 in cash. $30 in cash will at least get you through a day or 2 days of eating, right?
Yeah, it's like 4 rolls of quarters.
Exactly. And then on top of that, though, not just that, if you're willing to put in the extra effort, this of course requires so much extra effort, because if you're traveling, you're going to have a harder time making a meal. But try to maybe sneak in a packed meal. Like nobody's going to be searching your bags, as far as I've had experience going into any convention center GP thing, right? I'm not saying it's out of the question. They might. I doubt it. But like pack a fucking sandwich and whatever you want. You know, put it in your backpack with your decks and sneak it in. So you don't have to wait in line for food in between rounds, because you might not have enough round time. You just played a 55-minute match against Oldham. You're waiting on like 5 games that have gone to time. You're not going to have time to run outside, grab a Taco Bell, eat it, and then come back inside to sit. You're going to get an IP5.
Yeah. I mean, imagine showing up with an Oldham deck and not a packed sandwich.
Yeah, that'd be really dumb. Expect to eat. If you're playing Oldham, expect to eat running to your next round. Oh, man. I mean, that's actually, honestly,
metagame.
This is super serious. Super serious. If you are playing a Guardian slow deck, even if you're not, like, think about it at least. But if you are playing a slow deck, consider planning for you not having a second between rounds to actually go buy a drink or food. Just plan for that. And if you have time, awesome. Go buy that nice Taco Bell. But if you don't have time, pound that ham sandwich.
Yeah, I mean, and this is like the slowest metagame we have ever had in the history of competitive Fab. So yeah, I think you're 100% correct. Even if you're not on Oldham, go for it.
Another important thing that you might not think about, or a couple things that may seem either obvious, dubious, or just like a little bit too prepared. Bring dice. Seems obvious. Bring dice. Your opponent may not have dice, and you don't want to sit there stuck like, how much pitch do you have? or how much extra power is on this, or how many rune sands do I have? Judge. My opponent didn't mark how much. Just don't be there. You don't want to be there. Just bring the fucking dice. Put it on the table. Sorry. And also pen and paper life tracking pad, something like that. That's not your phone, and that's not dice, because you're not going to be allowed to use dice to track life totals.
Yeah, no, 100%. That's the
that is a bad habit of like just local casual play. It's not bad to do it there, but if you're playing in a professional tournament or competitive tournament, you've got to have pen and paper for life tracking, or one of those Etch-a-Sketches, eraser pads for tracking life totals.
Yeah, some way you can go back and reference events if there's a discrepancy.
Correct. Another thing is, if you can afford to, new sleeves. And maybe that's something I just thought of recently when I was writing this list. I'm like, hey, you know what? It would be a great idea just to have a pack of fresh sleeves in my bag. Why? Imagine having a sleeve split on you and you're in the middle of the round. You're like, got to scramble to buy new sleeves. Or your deck's kind of like looking, too funky and it might not pass a deck check. Or somebody might call a judge on you because they think you have marked cards, right? Make sure your sleeves are pristine. The sleeves that you've been using for the last year on that deck, do not use them. It is not worth not DQ, because you'd have to actually be cheating to get that. But, or the potential. I mean, who knows what kind of judge you get. But, it's not worth the penalties for having potentially marked cards or curled cards,
absolutely.
And as far as like materials and stuff go, one other extra thing that might be helpful, it depends on like what you do when you're at these kinds of events. Like if you like to go around, do trades, you like to go around, like buy stuff in cards and singles or whatever, have a deck box with an extra compartment or just an extra plastic, like, cheapo deck box, just to toss that stuff in, right? Or just somewhere to put it, like a binder or another box, like I said. So you just put it in there, forget about it, and then don't have to like worry about stashing it into your binder one page at a time while you're trying to get to another round or whatever. I don't know. It just seems like a nice, like, extra good thing to have.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I don't know if you have any suggestions for other material things to bring.
Ooh, material things to bring. Let's see. You want your dice. You want your life pad. You definitely want. Huh.
I'm also going to assume everyone has a. I'm also going to assume everyone has a backpack. I'm not sure. I need to ask you to bring a backpack, but I did forget one thing. A sweater.
Oh yeah, that's true. You could be put somewhere weird in the corner of the room with super cold.
Yeah, or you're just in a really cold convention hall. It sucks.
Yeah.
It really sucks if you have to sit there in the cold all day. It is not fun. You will not be able to focus very well.
Absolutely. I remember one time I went to a Magic Grand Prix super early in the morning, and it was cold, but it got hot in the middle of the day, so it's good to have a sweater. But I do remember, like, because of the humidity and them blasting the AC, just everything was covered in a layer of cold fog. You know what I mean? Like steamed up. That's not the word I'm looking for, but you know what I'm talking about.
I know exactly what you mean. It was funny because day one of the calling in Orlando last year for Natt, the day one was like hot. So I brought my sweater. I'm like, shit, it's hot. I'm like, I got to take this thing off or wrap it around my waist. Like, I can't wear it. And then the next day, I didn't bring it, and they decided to turn the AC up. I'm like, oh my God, killing myself here.
Amazing.
Then the next day, I brought it in, and it was hot again. I'm like, it feels terrible.
Oh, that is amazing.
And here's another little section I think is definitely worth mentioning is tournament advice, right?
Yeah.
Restroom break between rounds. If you have the time, just make sure you run to the bathroom real quick. At least walk towards there. Just to use the restroom if you need to use it.
Absolutely.
Just in case, because you don't want to have to hold that in during a match or want to use a restroom at the end of the round and realize, oh, I got to use the restroom. Then they announce pairings, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna be late. No, don't do that to yourself. Avoid those tardiness penalties. Those are very brutal. They have a 3 to 10 minute tardiness policy for comp REL competitive. So if you're day 1 of the calling, that's 3 to 10 minutes. 3 minutes to get to your table for an IP3. 10 minutes for a match loss. So you don't want that.
Yeah.
And if you're playing professional, forget it. You have to be in your seat when the timer starts. Otherwise, that's an IP3. 10 minutes after, that's a match loss. So definitely do not throw your matches over not having used the proper time to use the restroom. Also have a couple recommendations about the tournament as well as bring back up deck list sheet, right? You write your deck list if you can as soon as possible or as close to the event as possible so you know what you're running. Bring an extra deck list sheet just in case. Because if you need to make a change last second or there's something wrong with your deck list, you're ready to go. You don't need to wait for them to go get you a deck sheet and bring it over to you wherever you are in the convention hall. You're going to be wasting precious minutes. So just bring an extra deck sheet. Another couple things I want to mention is shopping. There's always going to be vendors at these kinds of events. You know, either artists selling proofs or stores selling boxes, singles, and other materials and stuff. And of course, you have the ticket redemption for the side events and everything, right? If you're shopping, this is just my perspective and my opinion. So I could be wrong on this, and maybe people who buy and sell stuff on a regular or know the owners of the shop. You have a better idea of this, but in my perspective, I think that shopping for rarities and high-end items should be done day 1.
Yeah, that's true.
Because these things won't always be there. And somebody's going to come by, see that cool card, signed and graded 9.5 tunic, and they're going to snatch it. And you want to have that opportunity, right?
Yeah, I mean, as more people drop, more people are going to go into shopping mode.
Correct. Now, if you're looking for deals on sealed singles, shop the final day.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because they want to carry as least amount of things possible back. So most places like these convention things, right? This is just a general rule for the conventions and stuff. If you're shopping for deals, right, on like things that they're moving a lot of, like singles and sealed, maybe not so much singles, but sealed stuff especially, or just like materials, right? Like accessories or whatever. Shop the final day because you'll get deals. They will have deals. Prices will change. When I was at Natt's last year, I remember literally the prices of the boxes. They would have them on LCD screens. On like the day 1, they had prices, and by day 3, they were like $10 cheaper.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense. They either just demand and what they want to come back with,
or they're doing like case deals or something, right? Because it's just much easier for them to sell the product there than have to move it all back.
Yeah,
and they all bring that stuff for a reason, and it's to sell it. It's not so they can bring it, show it, display it, and carry it all back. If they could sell all of it, awesome, amazing, right? And
yeah,
if that means taking like cuts on their margins, totally fine. And another thing is this also, of course, is very, very variable. It's going to change person to person and event to event. But you can buy and sell these tickets earned at side events, and a lot of people do. And I think the advice I want to give is if you're buying, buy as early as possible. And if you're selling them, sell as late as possible. Does that make sense? I'm not sure if that's like even logical. But to me, it seemed like more people were willing to pay more for these tickets at the end when they are scrambling for the last few.
I mean, there's also like a cutoff point. I feel like at the end of these where you're
absolutely,
like, we need to
sure.
dump all these immediately. For almost nothing.
Correct. We're like, oh yeah, it's the thing. It's like a balance, because there's also the effect of you being as a seller wanting to get rid of these things because, well, you're not either you don't have enough for them for the thing you want, or you don't even want to use your tickets because you just don't want to buy overly marked up stuff for the amount of value these tickets are, right? So I would consider maybe a middle ground, like a day 2 deal, would not be a bad idea. Or finding a single buyer.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think, I mean, finding a single buyer obviously is going to be the best case scenario, because then you'll only have to negotiate a price once. It's not like there's a going rate for these.
For sure. Do you have any other advices as far as like materials to bring in or tournament advice that I missed something?
I don't know. I mean, I guess really the only advice that I have is don't go to the restaurants right next to the convention center, because that's what everybody else will be doing, and you'll be stuck there for a long time.
Very true. I would also say it depends on the convention center.
That's true. I mean, downtown Charlotte, there's going to be a lot of places to go.
Oh, awesome. I didn't know that. I've never been downtown Charlotte.
Yeah, it's because city.
Well, yeah. So my experience with convention centers was the Orlando Convention Center.
Oh yeah,
the orange.
That one's
so the
bad news bears.
The problem with that one is that there's nothing next to it. It's like it's enclosed almost. And on the inside, like they have the little stands they open up, like bakery, pizza, like taco stand, and like chicken tenders or whatever. But if you want to get anything else to eat, you literally have to walk outside and walk like 2 miles in one direction. And that's just not like, there's not like you can be like walk outside the convention hall door, walk like a quarter mile or like a quarter mile and there's a Mickey D's, right? That's just not reasonable at all. It's not ideal. So yeah, at least scout the food areas for sure, like what your options are. It's definitely a good idea.
Charlotte's like a very it's not like Orlando. Like you will be able to walk wherever you want.
Sweet.
Charlotte's really cool. Charlotte is really, really cool. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I really don't have any other advice. It's been a really long time since I've been to one of these things. I guess just like don't put Twinkies on a pizza.
Oh, I don't know, man. That could sound like some pretty sound advice, depending on who you are.
It's true.
I don't know. Have you had Twinkies on a pizza?
It's from a movie that I'm realizing now is very dated.
Oh, well. I wonder how that tastes, actually. I'm just curious, like morbid curiosity.
There's like, it's from this Disney movie called Heavyweights. And just like at the very end, they have like this just like blowout feast of a party. And they find like one of the kids face down on a lawn the next day. And they're like, "Are you okay?" And he just like rolls over and he goes, "Don't put Twinkies on a pizza."
Oh, that's amazing.
That's one of my favorite movies. Yeah, I don't know. I guess this is one of those things where hopefully at some point I'll be able to go to one of these big flesh and blood things this year, whether it's another Calling or Worlds.
Man, that'd be cool. I don't think I'll be able to.
Blake's trying to organize people going to Florida Panthers versus San Jose Sharks game at Worlds, and I'm a diehard Florida Panthers fan, so I don't know.
Ooh, is that going to take place at the same time?
Yes, that's why he's trying to organize it.
Oof. Well, hopefully you at least get to go out to Worlds. Maybe not that day of the game, but one of the preceding or the following days.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. It'll be interesting.
Yeah, and I'll be tuning in from Worlds, from Nationals, and hopefully Doug will be tuning in from Worlds.
Yeah, right. I think it's interesting. That said, though,
this concludes Matt's guide to Natts.
Yeah, And I think really, the only other thing that we have to discuss this week is the shifts in prices and tracking cards. There really isn't a lot to mention right now because the meta has kind of stalled. And it is interesting. I'm slowly adding my algorithm that Matt saw. I have this giant spreadsheet of prices.
Oh yeah, I finally got to see it. I mean, we've been talking about this for a while. It's funny, and I only just realized that this is something I can look at. I thought it was just a personal, private.
No, yeah, I was actually. We discovered in the pre-show that I thought I had shared this with Matt, and I guess I forgot to. But in my head, I had sent this to him, and he was like, whenever he would like bring up prices and we talk about it, be like, "Oh yeah, I guess he's referencing the sheet." I just realized I never shared it with him, and I was like, I have this whole thing built with like 2 months worth of card prices and tracking data. It's really great. I'm glad now that we are literally on the same page.
Yeah, no, actually, I've been using TCG Player and then kind of just like checkboxing Legendary, Fable, Marvel, High to Low, Flesh and Blood. Okay, cool. Now I get to scroll and look at all the prices.
Yeah.
But actually, no, the data is great. We have a system here showing the lowest the price of a card has ever been. And currently
I'm still implementing it Legendaries. It's in for all the Fables. I believe as far as Legendaries go, the ones that are at their all-time lowest as we speak are Vestige of Soul. Obviously, nobody's playing Bolton. And then the other one is Cross Wrap because no one's playing Azalea.
On a separate, somewhat related note, I think Bolton's kind of scary, man.
He is. It's just the lack of card consistency and the Bolton to me on a certain level functions very similar to Briar, but without the card advantage. Where with Briar, you're kind of just like you have enough good cards to stall you out to a Channel Mount heroic turn. Where with Bolton, you're just chilling and you're hoping you hit the right cards.
Yeah, for sure. I understand that. Just like when he does pull it off, though, you're like screwed royally.
So, here, this is interesting. I mentioned this earlier in the show, but I almost forgot about it. The other card that is at its all-time lowest, and I got to be honest with you, Matt, I don't see this card going any lower, is Tiger Stripe Shuko, is a $47 card right now, which is insane. This thing was at $100 for so long.
It was more than 100 for a while. Crazy.
47 big ones. That is crazy to me. I think that has to do with Prism disappearing.
Absolutely.
Briar is kind of. Briar is the aggro deck of this format. Briar can go tall enough to beat a lot of these Guardian decks. And if I'm being honest, as Briar, I always felt pretty good against Fi. And I think that's what's pushing Ninja out of the meta. With the fall of Prism comes the rise of Dromai. So if you were looking to get Footsteps for cheap, you are still looking, which is quite delightful.
Sadly, I was kind of hoping it would drop quite a bit after Prism's all out, and it has not.
Yeah, it has not. There are, there are 3 cards that I need to finish my set of Legendaries, one of which I will be picking up this week because it is at its all-time low. And that is Doomsday.
Yeah.
I think Levia has enough of a fan club, if you will, that we will not see this card ever go below $20. Unfortunately, the other 2 I need are Heart of Ice, which is sitting at $115 forever and ever, and then New Horizon, which I refuse to pay full price for.
But think about this, man. Think about this, right? It right now is probably not really that great, right? Imagine when it's actually good.
It's never been that great.
Yeah, but imagine when it's actually good and you're gonna need it. just consider that. That's all. Just consider the price of New Horizons now. We'll revisit this in a few months.
Do you think that's enough to make it the God, what is that? Currently the 4th most expensive legendary card, though. That's kind of insane, right?
It is a little insane, but Lexi mains are committed. They love the hero, committed. But it's also one of the most unique legendary effects in the game.
That's true.
It's like it changes the rules of the game, right? It just says, "Hey, I'm gonna have 2 arsenals."
Yeah, I mean, I saw a cold foil one on Facebook that somebody was trying to sell for $105, and I was like, "Yeah, maybe." And then I didn't get it, and that was
you should have snapped bought that.
That said, I think we have the card that is at its all-time highest, which I think is very important going into a Nationals meta. Like, what is the card that people are buying the most of going in? Is the Crown of Providence. That is a $150 card right now.
Yeah. Card is wild. Card is incredibly good. Like,
I mean, it destroyed Skullcap.
We undervalued, not us personally. I'm saying, like, generally speaking, a lot of people undervalued the power of Crown of Providence. And what it does essentially is it card fixes for any kind of deck, and particularly good for aggro decks. It's kind of just like, oh yeah, this is a bad hand. Oh, I'll block your thing. Sure, here, block for 2, fix my hand. Oh, that's much better. Or alternatively, turn my arsenal card into a blocking and or pitching card. So now my arsenal now is replaced by a card draw, and I can pitch and block with it.
It's also like, really for me, the thing that was huge is I couldn't tell you how many games I've played where like a very specific card, like on Briar, like a Channel Mount Heroic or something, got stuck in my arsenal, and I was like, that's not what I need to do to regain tempo right now.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And I know you and I were like casually playing a game once where you were in a position where you were just to get it out of your hand, you had to I always think about this, you had to arsenal an Arknight shard. So I was
to
get it out of your hand.
Pre-Crown of Providence, because it's like
Crown of Providence would have been great there.
I think it was because I didn't run Grasp, or I had too many rune chants and I couldn't actually activate it. I can't remember what happened.
It was something where you needed a specific card, and it made more sense for you to arsenal that to get a look at it.
Well, the reason why I couldn't pitch it instead of arsenaling it was probably because I either ran Vexing Cool Hand and popped it already, or because I had Grasp and had too many rune chants and didn't have enough to pitch for it.
Yeah, that's fair. That makes sense. Huh. Either way, though, Crown of Providence would have been great.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. I'm excited to finish adding my algorithm to the rest of this. So it pops up lowest, and we'll be able to just immediately put in price data, have it show up. I have the algorithm set up for the next 4 months of data. It should work. And then we'll see. So I think on the whole, that about does it.
Well, I actually would like to swiftly interject.
Okay.
We got to talk about this.
Uh-oh, what happened?
Fabrary and FabDB.
Oh my goodness, I forgot all about this.
The civil war of flesh and blood.
Yeah. Right. So this is pretty interesting to me. I don't know. I don't know why they're going at each other's throats. Like the Fabrary and FabDB are definitely unfriendly at the moment, but I don't know.
See,
I don't know why they're trying to conquer each other.
See, I'm not familiar with the contention. I understand why it's there, probably, but here's the thing: like, Fabrary is just a superior tool. Like, it's as far as like convenience wise goes, it's so easy to use.
Correct.
Right? FabDB, on the other hand, is more appealing to use. I admit that much. But there's so many things wrong with FabDB. Right?
Yeah.
There's so many bugs. There's just, issues with it. It and they are only just now starting to feel pressured enough to pump out features and fixes because Fabrary is really like putting out good shit. Like this is like a very well made like deck builder, right? And they before I think FabDB, I might be wrong, but they were first to have the Talishar compatibility, like to play on Flesh and Blood Online.
Yeah,
which is a whole nother thing that we should talk about because that is a big up and coming, like that's a big thing going on right now. Is this whole Flesh and Blood Online? It's revolutionized things, and at first, I honestly didn't really think it was like that big a deal. I'm like, wow, okay, cool. Like, I get that people got to play test online, but everyone's really, really making a big hoo-ha about this thing. And then I started playing on Talishar.net. I'm like, okay, yeah, I see why. Like, if enough people are on it, like you can really jam out games quickly. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
It's like you could find a match faster on Talishar.net than you can finding a match on Arena for Magic.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, like, I mean, it might take a little bit longer because you've got a sideboard and do all pre-board and all that, right? But
yeah,
it's honestly, it feels faster.
Yeah, I mean, it absolutely is. And it's good to have an online client that isn't pushed by a company that has something to gain from it. I think that is like one of the biggest parts.
And it's not monetized. I mean, they have a Patreon, but that's totally optional. And you only get really like extra benefits. It's not even like a necessary thing. Yeah. And as an example of like how revolutionary this has been is like me who has 5 work days a week. I didn't get to drive down Saturday 35 minutes or 40 minutes to my local armory, which is what I have to drive every week if I want to play Armory, Flesh and Blood. My buddies up here near me have not had an opportunity to come and meet to play test. So I started playing Talishar Online to try it. And I must have jammed at minimum 20 games all week long while on breaks at work or at home because of Flesh and Blood Online, or Talishar.net rather, sorry. So I've gotten a lot of practice that I really need to prepare for the calling that I would not have gotten otherwise.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
Or rather, I'm sorry, because Tabletop Simulator is still a thing. But needless, either way, that is playtesting that is done digitally. Very conveniently as well. And also, it doesn't require you to own Tabletop Simulator, and it doesn't require you to have a graphics, like a minimum graphics capacity on your PC. You could do this on your phone, Talishar, if you really wanted. The UI is super wonky if you like reduce the screen space, but it's possible.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, it's weird to me that, I mean, I guess it makes sense because you're not really reading the cards that way. It's for me, it's taking a little bit of time to get used to the Magic Arena style of like,
oh, for sure,
whatever you want to call it, the shrunken card. But yeah, this is a great thing, and I can't believe one person just coded all this in PHP. That's insane to me.
Are you serious?
Yeah,
this is only one dude.
I mean, it's even crazier that it's in PHP, but that's its own discussion.
Holy smokes.
I mean, this is like, I mean, I would really love to find, I mean, it does say support us at the top, but who's to say what exactly that means? I do want to look a little bit more into like how many people are running Talishar, because to me, what the way it looks and the way it's coded, to me, it says it's just one person running this in PHP. And it's really cool. So yeah,
this is amazing. Like, I understand that they don't want an online client official one, right? And they're just avoiding a future lawsuit or issue by just renaming it to Talishar, which is smart.
Yeah.
But just to the whole FabDB thing, I think, what's the word I'm looking for? It's like, innovations in the online space of like card assortment, planning, testing, deck construction. All these innovations are all welcome, right? And like if FabDB is willing to put in the work to like update their shit and get it all together and fix it, like they're still welcome. And as is FabDB, because FabDB provides a great tool, a much better, in my opinion, like organization for seeing like tournament deck lists, right? And like convenient links and everything all next to everything. It's all just very convenient. And FabDB's got a very beautiful site. And they are also one of the first. So
yeah, FabDB is one person. I do know that for a fact. So I don't know. It's interesting. It is very interesting. I mean, obviously, I think a lot of the backlash that we've seen in FabDB this week is because they switched to a subscription model.
What happened about that? I didn't know.
They took some features away that you now need to be a subscriber to use. What? It has something. I didn't really look that much into it. I know that some people were talking about it. I am doing a really bad job.
No worries. I mean, we kind of like weren't totally sure. At least I'm not totally sure what features those might be. But
here, let's see. I don't know. They have a subscription thing, and I know they took some stuff away. But that said, they are super buggy. Like the ability to, they had a bug where you were having trouble exporting deck lists this week. Where they one of their variables fell out of scope. It was like a typing error. If they have bug bounties, feel free to call me. Oh, that'd be great. I can tell you exactly how to fix your website. So I don't know. It is interesting. I think it's also the weird thing where FabDB is just like a place to throw up your idea, where it's not like FabDB sources these from tournament decks, and I don't know. I don't like that they're at war though, because if just one of them wins, then they'll both be lazy, and the competition's really good.
Yeah, I think it's good. Generally, however this all pans out, I think it's definitely better.
Absolutely.
And like you said, it's FabDB is pulling data, and then FabDB is a collection of submitted deck lists. So
yeah, I don't know. I need to research this a little bit more, so I have more to talk about it.
For sure.
But yeah, now I think that does it.
Absolutely. Right? I think we have covered as much as we can this week. Next week, we will be reporting to you just hours before, or couple days before the beginning of Nationals, U.S. Nationals.
Oh, yeah, I guess we will, won't we?
Yeah. And then the following week, we will be reporting after Nationals, discussing, of course, the winner.
We will.
And my experience.
The qualifiers and the winner. Yeah.
And I'll talk about how I won the U.S. calling event at Charlotte.
That's right. We'll have the exclusive.
Because I'm going to win. That's what I've been referring to myself lately as the future Charlotte calling winner. So
yeah, people will be like, "Can you come on my podcast?" And we'll be
Manifest
like, "You can come on my podcast." I mean?
I'm gonna give Viscerai them living legend points as much as it pains me, but it's gonna happen.
It's gonna happen. It needs to happen
100%. I'm gonna put our and I even ordered a new pitch stack playmat pitch stack podcast pitch out podcast playmat. Oh, that's a tongue twister.
Pitch stack podcast playmat.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
The pitch stack podcast playmat.
And I will be at the calling in Charlotte. If you see me, I will have the playmat with a QR code. If you're listening to this, that's not helpful to you because you're already following us. But anyone else who hasn't listened to our podcast gets to listen to it. Just, scan the QR code and follow us on there. So
absolutely. Yeah, right on. Cool.
Sweet.
All right. Well, that'll do it for episode 25, and we'll see you next week.
See you next week. See you.